And I was a little bit skeptical at first, or it didn't feel like I was getting a ton of energy return. I'm not sure if it's worth that $160 price point. This is my full review of the Adidas Supernova Prima. So as always, we're gonna start off with the outsole, or the traction performance of the Adidas Supernova Prima. That is a mouthful. These running shoe names are getting longer and longer. It's a mixture of different rubbers. There is a translucent rubber on my pair. This is the all gray colorway. This is, I think, the only colorway that they have released on Adidas's website. So a translucent rubber that covers a majority of the outsole, as well as another gray rubber, as you can see, that is more of a midsole foam material, a little bit denser of a foam. And I would say that the traction held up perfectly for my specific use cases. So I only ran on the road with these shoes, as well as in dry weather conditions in California. I didn't notice any slipping or the traction being bad at any point. Moving on to the durability of this outsole, it is a thinner layer of the outsole compared to a lot of other daily training options. And I was a little bit skeptical at first, but after putting about 30 to 35 miles of total use, I think 25 of those were running, and then I walked around a lot in the shoe, so about 10 miles walking. I don't see any degradation of the outsole, which is a good sign, and it held up a little bit better than I was anticipating. I was anticipating to see a little bit of fraying here and there, but to my knowledge, I see maybe just a touch on the gray part of the outsole, which is more of that midsole material. But other than that, it looks perfectly fine. So I would say durability has been good. Moving on to the main event of most running shoes, in my opinion, it's gonna be the midsole. So this is the older sibling to the Supernova Rise model that Adidas released earlier this year, or maybe last year. I haven't been keeping track. The only difference between that model and this model is that this model has a little bit higher of a stack height at 38 millimeters in the heel and 30 millimeters in the forefoot, as well as dropping that heel to toe offset from 10 millimeters in the Rise to 8 millimeters here. I have not run in the Supernova Rise, so this was actually my first experience with Dream Strike plus cushioning. This one has a full length midsole of it, and overall I would say that it was not exactly what I was expecting with the Dream Strike Plus. It felt a little bit dense, but I felt that it was absorbing a lot of impact, if that makes sense. It's not going to be the highest energy return that you're going to feel in a running shoe, but it does feel that it's absorbing a lot of the impact underneath your foot. So it feels a little bit more of a dense foam, but while still maintaining those impact absorption qualities in the midsole. So overall, I felt that the ride was best used for long runs and easier runs, because I didn't feel like I wanted to pick up the pace in this shoe. Now, with that being said, I did run a half marathon in this shoe, and I tried to pick up the pace a little bit, at least for me, and I ran about an 8:55 pace per mile for the half marathon. So it was about sub 2 hour half marathon, and these shoes did hold up fine. Like I said, it just didn't feel like I was getting any energy, or it didn't feel like I was getting a ton of energy return or bounciness in the midsole from the half marathon. So it did a great job at protecting my knees and joints and hips and whatnot, and I had no complaints there. It's just not gonna be the most exciting ride. Now, walking or going slower paces in the shoe, it's gonna feel a little bit softer, which is very nice, and it's pretty pleasant on foot. But then again, when you're trying to pick up the pace, you're not gonna get that energy return that you do in some other PIBA-based foams, as well as other carbon-plated shoes. So talking about carbon plated shoes, this does have plastic rods, I believe, in the shoe, in the midsole, but with the Prima model, it's not gonna be a super aggressive plate. It didn't feel super stiff, and I didn't feel the plates too much while it was under my foot, as well as the rocker in the front. It's more subtle than most running shoes, so it's not gonna make you feel like you wanna go faster. And I think that Adidas did this on purpose, because this, compared to, you know, maybe the Adizero Boston 12s, this is not meant to go super fast, and I think it's meant more for those longer or easier runs. So with all that being said, I think that Adidas hit the nail on the head with what they were going for, more of a slower paced or long run type shoe, and the Dream Strike Plus was very comfortable for that. On to the upper of the shoe. So this is where I think things started to fall apart for me personally. I went true to size in this model, so I got my normal typical US size 12, and there were a couple issues with the fit. So first of all, the toe box. I thought that even with a wider foot, the toe box just had a little bit too much room for me, as well as lengthwise, it was a little bit longer than I was expecting, as well as the heel lockdown and tongue regions of the shoe. the heel lockdown at first was not very good without the runner's loop, but as I did the runner's loop, it got a little bit better, as well as when I broke in the shoe. Now the tongue is gusseted, and it is a thinner type of tongue, which is interesting to me because the whole upper is not a minimalist upper whatsoever, and the back heel padding, there is quite a bit of it. So it made it interesting for me that they chose to skimp out, or not skimp out, they chose to go with the thinner tongue in the forefoot, because as I was tightening up my laces, I did feel the laces dig in a little bit into my ankles just to get that heel lockdown correct. And as I did that too, my whole foot came back into the shoe to get that heel lockdown, so I felt even more room in the toe box. So overall, I mean, it's better to get running shoes that are a little bit too big for you rather than a little bit too tight. I think in my experience, that's what's caused a lot of problems, is when a shoe fit too tight, because your feet expand while they run. So it's a better problem to have too much space in the forefoot or too much space in the shoe than to not have enough. Now with that being said, the rest of the upper I felt was okay. It's just an engineered mesh at $160. If I'm being a little bit nitpicky, I do wish that they gave us a little bit more of a premium upper, like maybe a knitted upper or a better fitting upper. For $160, I expect a little bit more of a premium feeling upper, and I want my foot to be locked down really nicely, as well as that tongue. I just wish that the tongue had a little bit more padding. Now, that could be due to me getting my true size. I would obviously recommend everyone try this shoe on before purchasing, but if you can't and you maybe want to just roll the dice and order them online, I would say that you're probably pretty safe going either true to size, you might have a little bit more room than you anticipate, or going down half a size. And I thought that even with my wider foot, I could have gone half a size down in the shoe, and maybe those problems that I talked about in the upper would have been taken care of. So overall, the feel of the shoe, I enjoyed the shoe. I wouldn't say that I absolutely loved the shoe. I thought it did the job. I didn't get injured running in the shoe, and I didn't feel that it was an uncomfortable shoe. But at the price point of $160, I did feel that it was maybe not the best option, and I'm not sure if it's worth that $160 price point. Now, if Adidas priced this like the Rise at $140, I think that I would be a lot happier recommending this shoe to a majority of people, as I did like the cushioning setup. Something that I forgot to mention as well is that it did feel like a pretty stable shoe due to it not being super bouncy and unstable. The heel also comes out quite a bit, so for heel strikers, it's very nice, as you do feel that transition and that help, a little bit of help when you're heel striking in this shoe. There's a ton of support, and for a neutral running shoe, I think this is one of the more supportive shoes. So I would recommend, since I'm also a heavier runner, that if you're heavier on the heavier side and you don't want something too uncontrollable or unstable, it may be a great option for you. But at $160, it's just kind of tough to justify that price point. I know Adidas is going to run a lot of sales in the future. I've already actually seen the SL2 go for under retail, a couple of flash sales with promo codes. So I believe that this shoe will probably get the same treatment in a couple of months, or if you're patient. So if you're not in the rush to buy these, you can probably get them under that $160 price point. If you can get them around $140 or below, I think it would be a better option for you. But overall, I think this one is a good shoe, but it's not a great shoe. And I did enjoy running in it, but a couple of the problems with the fit and the upper just has me reaching for other shoes over this one. That's gonna pretty much wrap up my review. Let me know in the comment section down below if you have any questions about what I may have missed in this review, as well as what you wanna see next. I am working on a couple of other videos, so stay tuned for that, and make sure you like and subscribe. So other than that, I will catch you guys in the next one.